it's on. So maybe maybe I can request Simon to help with the taking of notes. Simon, are you in a comfortable place?
Yes, Doc, I can take the notes.
Very well, very well. But
some brief agreement.
Thank you so much. So therefore, maybe the plan of today is just to go through the call. Then Professor Opata will give us a small sketch of the schedule as she thinks about it, and then of course we shall brainstorm the way forward. So maybe we have 3 agendas. That is one, just to peruse through the call. Then Prof will lead us into the areas she believes we can start looking at. And then we shall brainstorm the way forward. I don't know whether that one is agreeable.
That's okay.
That is quite in order, Dr.
Thank you, Prof. So we expect maybe to be here for in the next 40 or so minutes. So we shall try to move fast. I want to open the call. I have not downloaded it, but I am sure it is still on the WhatsApp. I'm looking for. Very well. Okay, I think I've seen it. So that's the way the call appears on the website by Jacobs. This Jacob Foundation, just to highlight, I think it's a serious organization in Germany. I remember there's a team that had visited the Ministry of Education, I think last year, from the Constructor University, and they were associated with the Jacob Foundation. Jacob is a founder of, I think, that university. And I'm sure Martin, because he has some idea of German, maybe he could tell us where this university could be located. But all in all, they have a call here, and they are saying that they are pleased to announce the 2024 call for proposals for its Levante framework. The Jacob Foundation is devoting up to CHF 4 million to support project proposal to become part of the Levante network. Dr. Ndishom, I don't know whether you have done your calculation just to be aware of what they're devoting, but it appears as if it's quite a big money, but going to the whole project. Very fast. So this Levante thing, they are saying that the running variability network exchange, Levante, seeks to understand how children grow, learn, and develop across different times, places, and contexts so that they can be supported to thrive in the multitude of experiences they will encounter throughout life. Brings together researchers from around the world to create the first cultural multidisciplinary open dataset, aiming to capture the richness and diversity of child development and learning. So at that point, I don't know what we pick from that. Maybe someone who has an idea can, or someone who has someone who has something to pick from there. Maybe can just clarify that paragraph very fast.
Maybe
Dr. Ngwan?
Yes. Is it Prof?
This is Martin.
Martin, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I can say a bit, maybe it speaks to what is there, but it's not exact. When I did my master's study in Germany, it was in Augsburg, but it was in the same area of study. I was working with early childhood children in Germany from the age of 3 years old to 6 years old. And this area of study that they're indicating to identify individual variability, group heterogeneity, and contextual variability that influence the children's learning and development is exactly what I was doing. But I was working in a school, a nursery school in Germany and a nursery school in Kenya. And I was comparing, I was comparing the two in one way. And what I was comparing was my research question was to do with how do children prefer to learn? Because when we write these curriculums, we say that they are learner-centered, but we never ask the learner, how do you prefer to learn? This question is never asked. But we proceed to prepare learning activities, course designs that we argue are learner-centered. But in truth, what we were asking, using the framework that I was using, was to what extent are these curriculums and courses that we design learner-centered? That was one. Another one was, to what extent does the learning culture of the learners need them to be learner-centered? Because it's an assumption, again, that learners want the curriculum to be learner-centered. And we don't consider that certain cultures, these things all have cultural context, but certain cultures are less like that, and other cultures are more like that. But in summary, what I discovered was based on, of course, the literature, but confirmed by the findings that I was using, is that the Western cultures, the goal of learning is for learners to be autonomous or to be self-governing. And the more independent learners become as a result of any study that they do, even when they're young, the more successful the learning is. But in Kenya, the goal, while self-governance and independence is a thing, it's not the end of the road. In Kenya, the purpose of learning is to become integrated into the society. So we look at a child as having learned, or let's say being educated and well educated, when they are well integrated into the society. So the Germans don't do that. The Germans look at autonomy, we look at integration. The Germans look at self-governance, we look at interdependence. The Germans look at, you see again, so when you look at the indicators, like one of the indicators here is group heterogeneity. And that's interesting because when you look at an indicator like group, how heterogeneous is the group or how homogeneous is the group, you find that the Germans are more homogeneous than the Africans. And when you look at or ask the question from a cultural perspective, the goal in Africa is always for heterogeneous groups to work together. That's when we have a good society. Whereas in Germany, a good society is one where everyone's the same. So there's a sense in which everyone's equal and everyone is doing things the same way. There's a sense of cultural neutrality that they emphasize. So it's interesting. Why I say it's interesting is partly because the way this question is phrased, or the way this statement is phrased, there's no reference to culture. And none of these things can be successfully or deeply understood outside the context of culture. So if we're going to be involved and we're Africans, and you see Germans, and this is another thing that I found with the Germans, is that they have no data on Africa, or they have insufficient data on Africa. So whenever they talk of whatever they're doing, like research, it has a strong Eurocentric outlook. And they don't see cultural variation as being something, or even cultural context, as being something that should come into the equation or into the research question when we're discussing it. So if we're going to be involved, I would say that these are interesting questions, or at least areas of study, but we need to define the cultural context and understand it from that perspective. And being Africans, we do not have the same culture, we know that, as the Europeans. So we need to be able to be specific about what is different in our culture and how does that influence, let's say, our investigation, especially on these areas of learning. That's how I would comment on this thing. I'm not sure if it makes sense, but I'm trying to summarize in a way that maybe can be helpful to the discussion.
That's quite insightful, Martin. We are happy that you have a background of
Yeah.
The German context, and of course, now being a Kenyan and an African, you know what we are. And I think that's very interesting. I don't know what other members would import, because I think Martin has just given us the critical insight for us to discourse around this very weak position. By the way, we keep on talking about the idea of learner-centered, but our idea of learner-centered is different, because we keep on creating things for them instead of them creating for us. I don't know what other scholars would say about this very critical paragraph 1.
Chair, can I also add my voice? I think this paragraph that Martin has spoken to, and then a paragraph that follows, that is where our research proposal sits, because this is the lavender whereby, or Levante, which requires that which requires that, as Martin has explained, it is seeking to understand how the children grow. And that is why, in our understanding, we must be able to come up with the psychological definition of growth in children: grow, learn, and develop across different times. And those different times, Martin has brought it out very clearly. Like, for example, if a child is at age 5, how does this child grow simultaneously with learning in different contexts, in different environment, in different culture, in different classroom, and with their different stages of growth? How do they learn and how do they grow? And the way Martin has brought it out is very interesting, and that is the way we shall take it. We want to look at now the African context, because in this other context, maybe the way the children grow, learn in different times and in different contexts or culture, their culture might not be as varied as ours. Their growth stages might not be as varied as ours. So we want to indigenize the whole of this thing, or to Africanize it, such that the theories that we have had in the background, the theories of Piaget, of Jean and Vygotsky's and all, they are emanating from foreign countries. And they speak about these children based in those different contexts. What about the African context? Does it still also explain the same? And that question calls that we come up with variety of discipline. For example, already in this first paragraph, I'm seeing curriculum developers are there. I'm seeing instructional experts or pedagogical experts are there. I'm seeing sociologists are there. Anthropologists are there. I'm seeing the psychologists are there. I'm seeing the growth, the medical person is there. And I'm seeing the early childhood experts people are here. You know, with all these disciplines, trying to gauge and tease out what is very key that contribute to African child in terms of growth and learning will be very important to us. And as we proceed on, we'll see how it is presenting itself very strongly in the subsequent paragraphs to follow.
That's a really comprehensive probe. It's quite comprehensive the way you put it, and definitely the other scholars are already seeing where we're going. Those ones who are not from the education, they can see what we are picking on. We are saying that, of course, there is what we already have as the theories of learning. But these theories been born from African context. I think that's the discourse, and I think this is why this call tries to provoke us to also think about our own context. I don't know whether there is someone else who would want to say something. I can see we have, we could be, yeah, thank you, yeah, right?
Yeah, so thank you so much. I just want to add my voice to what has been said. I think when we are talking about heterogeneity, we are trying to here appreciate the universalities and the specificities of context and even within individuals. So I still come back to the African context. And as Martin and Prof has just explained, another dimension that we can also think about is the meaning making of what is learning, what is development in these different contexts. And by no means are we, ignoring the other conceptions from the West, but we are just trying to appreciate and also understand learning and development, child learning and development within a cultural context. I just want to give an example. For example, if we are talking about cognitive development, what may be explained as stages of cognitive development perhaps may not resonate with what we have within the African context. So beside appreciating the issues around independence and interdependence, we can also think about the meaning making of learning and development within our unique context. Thank you.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful, right? Of course, you're speaking to the decolonization of learning, and I think the reason why we fit so well in this call, you can all see the Europeans are making deliberate attempts to exactly understand our context, because we have all depended on their context. So all of them are promoting a lot of decolonization of education, and definitely this could be an opportune time also to put our voice, our theories ahead. And when we talk about meaning making, definitely you are just speaking to what a lot of scholars who are pragmatic have been talking about, because definitely when the European landed here, they misinterpreted everything that the Africans knew and we followed suit. So that's the discourse, friends. So you can see how it's speaking so well, and definitely this is also helping us all to understand this. Do we still have someone who want to throw in something before we move? Simon?
Okay.
Excellent.
So I second what colleagues are saying. By looking at the call, I think the call is specific on the variability and the heterogeneity, which is the differences in how these students they process information and respond to educational experiences. And this variability can come from a range of factors, like what Doc is explaining about cognitive differences, factors which are emotional, cultural background, the environment. I think as we narrow down, maybe we can look at these variabilities. So the differences in how they process information in that age of 5 to 12 years, I think that is what they are mainly focusing on. You'll be able to narrow down to some those kind of heterogeneity, those differences in the individual students. We are able to identify a starting point.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you. Very good coming from an economist. definitely you can pick a very critical perspectives. So maybe as we move on, just to get the whole gist, and of course, because we have already talked about the first and second paragraphs here, definitely the second one is just giving us the overarching objective of Bravante, which is to identify how individual variability, group heterogeneity, and contextual variability influence children's learning and development. We have all talked about that, and the reason why the Jacobs have a feeling that they need to understand this perspective more. So let's just go to the third paragraph here. We say below are outlined the details of the request for proposal process, including requirements, general priorities, budget guidance, add-ons, and types of project eligible for submission. So this is just how they have mapped these requirements. Saying beyond these guidelines, we invite creativity in proposals to use the Levante framework. For example, we would expect to support integration of Levante measures into ongoing cohort studies, use of Levante measures as part of a suite of measurements related to the outcomes of a randomized intervention, coordination of Levante measures with a collection of other measure types with a provision that these be collected so as to be shared as broadly as possible. This might especially include dense sampling of behavioral measures revealed within person variability, neuroimaging or psychophysiology measurements, e.g., EEG, fMRI, eye tracking, etc., genetic data, educational context data, including but not limited to classroom-based observation and or additional administrative data beyond the standards for school-based equipment, or rich environmental characterization, e.g. home, video or audio recordings. So we would want friends to brainstorm these guidelines just to get the perspective of what the proposal requires. Maybe we can hear some perspectives here. Martin, do you want to go past you in that line as we pick on the others?
Yeah, I can explain a bit about this one. It seems to me that they are quite open to, you could say, online learning environments, because many of these experiments that we're looking at, that especially when you look at the kind of data they're talking about us getting and the kind of experiments we should do as interventions, are easily done if we're online. So either you're online or you're in a computer-based environment. It could be a lab, a classroom where students have computers. It seems to me to be that way. If you take eye tracking, for example, so this is quite interesting. One of the advantages of using technology to gather data, which is not manual or manually gathered the way we did it traditionally, is that the information tends to speak more objectively to the question. When we collect the data manually, there's a sense of bias that is introduced because it's a human being collecting the data. But when it's a instrument, a digital instrument, then the instrument tends to recede into the background, and the data tends to be collected in a much more objective way. I'll speak to eye tracking because I've done these experiments before. And eye tracking would mean that the eyeballs are being tracked by a camera on a laptop to know where you're looking on a page when the page is presented to you, or where you're looking on an activity when that activity is presented to you. That can be analyzed in interesting ways that you can't analyze if you're trying to collect this information manually. It seems that they want us to structure our interventions in such a way that the instrumentation or the instruments are being used to collect the data. So that's quite interesting. The one thing which may be away from the research, but maybe it plays a role, when it comes to this kind of data. When I was in Germany, I found that there's a politics around ownership of data. And why I say there's a politics is partly because people, for example, if the Germans collect this data because they funded it, you can't access it yourself. It belongs to the Germans. And if you want it, they can charge you for it. They can tell you what you can get, what you can't get. That's all. That's what it means. So it's an interesting area because if you, for example, just imagine a scenario where we get into a classroom of young people, the Africans, we put them on these gadgets, and then they trust us because we're Africans like them. These are like our children, so we're their parents. So we're giving them gadgets. We put them on these gadgets, and then we data mine them. We get all this data, and then we do it for the Germans, and we give it to the Germans. But it's of our children in the classroom. It's an interesting situation, that one, because if you ask the reverse, will the Germans allow us to go and strap their children using their parents, gather all the data we can from them, we pay them, and then we own that data? Would they allow us to do it in the reverse case? And I'll tell you, the answer is no. It doesn't matter how much you try to persuade them, they'll never allow you to strap their children like that. So I think it's just a question, but we need to think about what we're doing, and to what extent we want to do it, and what is the arrangement, who owns the data, and how can it be used, and things like those. It may come up. It may come up because there's a politics around it. Africans, I think, from what I've seen anyway, we're not as secretive as the Europeans, and also as you know, the Europeans have a fear that the next world war could break anytime, and it could be based on these technologies, and they could be greatly disadvantaged if they don't own the technology. So they have this kind of defensive mentality. Africans don't have that. So I'm just, again, so they have money, so they can fund. We have people, so we can give the information. But is it safe? Those are questions. But I like the direction of the research, partly because it will give us insights that we can't get otherwise. But it might need us to problematize a bit and see how to go about doing what we're doing, and the ethics around it need to be considered. If we consider the ethics, then we make better decisions. Maybe that's my comment on this one.
Now it's, I think it's getting more interesting, and we have an expert here in data protection, Dr. Jason Gure. I'm sure you are hearing what Martin is alluding to, that as we think around this study, let's also think about the ethics in it. But basically, let's see what others have to pick. Prof. Opata, Dr. Sang, Musi, and Simon, and the others.
Maybe mine is just inquiry. Martins, thank you so much for that clarification about these three areas. I was just wondering aloud, is it a mandatory that you have to align the proposal to these three areas, or you can choose what is suitable for your environment? Just pull up a bit so that we can see. Like, for example, we can see the first dot. If it were numbered number 1, the first dot is already leaving us out. Who are the novice? Who are the starters? It is saying that those who are already, or who have already ongoing studies, which means what is being introduced here, not up. We go down. Is it up or down? Yes, that way. Here. What is being introduced here can be integrated in already ongoing cohort studies, of which we are not part of this, because we don't have a two. And number 2 is to use lab measures as part of the suite of measurements related to outcome of randomized intervention. So number 2 and number 3 and the subheadings under number 3, I was asking, is it a mandatory that we have to take all of it, or we can decide we are going for the last one under educational context, including but not limited to classroom-based observation or additional administrative data beyond the standards for school-based recruitment, or something like that. Do we have to go for everything? Supposing we chose that the 2 last areas, the educational context and the environment of learning, what Karanja is just underlining, the rich environment, environmental characteristics, those 2. Supposing we chose those 2. Actually, what Martin has explained is very interesting, but I can see a lot of ethical issues in there. But at the end of the day, we will collect very rich data. But whose data is that? Are we collecting to give it out? Because this is a sponsored, this is a donor project. Now, if the findings, we come up with the findings, they will expect that we share with them the findings. That means that we are releasing the data to them. What about these ethical issues that are engulfed inside here? How do we go about them? Especially where we have to track the children, we are tracking the children, we are coming up with theories that are best explaining the African context and with the African children. Is that data owned by us, or it is going to be owned by our donor? And if that is the case, then can we think about maybe narrowing down to the last 2? But the other one are quite interesting the way Martin is putting it.
Yeah, I would want Dr. Ngure to respond to that question, Rolf, about the idea of data and mining by other. What are the repercussions, or what are the risks here? But to me, just as Prof was saying, the 2 last areas are a bit open and safe. But let's see what Dr. Ngure can bring in, having interacted with such issues.
Yes, thank you very much. I also got a bit worried, especially when I saw even genetic data. And I'm wondering, what does the person want? Because we've been looking at cases whereby the NIS has now told people to be very careful about espionage, to be very careful about what are these kind of things that people are taking. And to a point, we also have to be patriotic, because we have to know what value am I getting from this? Are we there? We have home videos and audio recordings. Being from the Ministry of Education, I know people who have done less intrusive research and have been denied permits because you're going to be using classroom data, probably with the community. And I know a person who was denied, and they were actually looking at some medical work with the CPE, and they were actually denied. So this one of EEGs, MRIs, and I'm wondering, do we have that kind of equipment? I'm looking at it from the other point of view, and also we should look at it and see, why are we doing it? Does it help us? Because sometimes we do research that other people want to do, but we have no interest in that data. Because if you told me we are looking at something that will improve data that we can use ourselves, I wouldn't have an issue with it. But this one, it's interesting research. Then what if they tell us they can give us everything and even get genetic data? Who will allow you to take samples from these children and now analyze them genetically? And I find this among the kind of studies that actually are not allowable. In my opinion, it's good for us to look at it from whatever context it is, but it will be very difficult to get consent from the Ministry of Education. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Now, that's interesting. That's interesting. But the subject is also valid. The idea of wanting to understand running variability and all that. So I don't know what others feel, but definitely we are on the last two bullets where we said we can safely avoid number 2 and 3, then go to education context data, including but not limited to classroom-based observation and or additional administrative data beyond the standards for school-based recruitment. Those are things that we do every day. And the other one, rich environmental characterization. Yeah. So let's get the feeling of the other scholars.
This is Rail. Thank you so much. I just want to also look at the last two, and because they said that we can have some bit of creativity in our approach, I wonder if it is possible to fuse looking at the competency-based curriculum that is being rolled out now, where beside having the school engagement, we are also having the family engagement. And to add on to the other discussion, I think we could be challenged by the technological affordances to carry out a study in number 2 and number 3, beside the ethical issues. So yeah, we can look at the last two and even try to merge so that we understand the home environment as well as the school environment, because basically children transition from home to school, and both are social units that provide for learning and development. Thanks.
Yeah, very true, Ryan. The issue of school engagements, home engagement are critical. Let's get some inputs. Musi, Dr. San.
Thank you, Dr. This is Musi. I've got a lot of interest from what Dr. Martin said about the ethical issues, and of course, Dr. Ngure has also alluded to the same. I got privilege to attend to research ethics in health research ethics in Moi, and one of the things that came up, there's an idea, the issue of unequal friends or unequal friendship in most of these researches that involve the global north and us. That they will have demands or expectations that they themselves cannot adhere to, but they want those of us who are in the resource limited context to adhere to them, what Dr. Martin was saying. And most of the times, you'll have to hit a compromise. And sometimes I've seen some of these researches, as much as Dr. Ngure has said, I've seen some of these researches being allowed, even in the medical field. But I don't know, of course, there are politics around it, and we cannot necessarily go into that. And I'm not saying that this one will be allowed on that front. But I'll go with the last two that we have just highlighted there, to try and play safe over the issues that will arise in the context of an equal friendship, where there are demands that are being placed on us that might rise, might bring up a lot of ethical concerns, yet we will still go ahead and do them without necessarily being so much unethical in the definition of research ethics. So I'll just second Professor Pata and even Ryan, as they have said, that we can go with the two the last two aspects that have been highlighted there. So, and of course, this is an axiological problem, and we can easily bring in a lot of ethics and a lot of philosophy to try and go around it, play it safe. Okay, so thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Maybe just to chip in briefly, I've followed the discussion very keenly and quite interesting. Good to listen to experts in the field. I would come in maybe with the fact that we are required to be innovative. So I'm just looking at the whole thing and wondering what will be the end product of this research, and trying to see issues to do with diversity, and trying to think about child development and what you want to see in this child later on, and especially how resilience can come into play in the life of a child later on. So mind would come in later in trying to be as innovative as possible, and trying to bring in, because in all these things, as you develop a child, you can miss leadership. So mine would not be directly on this, but I would chip in when we are required to be as innovative as possible as we carry out this research. But I hear what you say. I would go with the last two. Thank you.
Dr. Sang, it's difficult to remove the practice of education and leadership. They go hand in hand, and you might find yourself from the onset, actually, not even towards the end, but we shall see. Sylvia, then we go to Simon, then we progress.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Well, I agree actually with the speakers who have alluded to looking at the last two, because clearly the first, when you look at the Denzel and then the emerging, apart from the having the right instrument to carry out that, it will bring in the ethical issues as they have indicated. But also, this is something that I'm wondering now, because I'm looking at a statement whereby they've said beyond these guidelines, we invite creativity in proposal to use Levante framework, for example, and they've listed this thing. So I'm wondering, what is the implication of now just narrowing on the last two and leaving the other three, because it's like they expect us to really integrate and utilize integration of lavender measures and all the other three. So I'm wondering, leaving them out, then what will be the implication? Will it deny us a higher chance to secure the funding, or what? That is something that I really want to understand. Maybe if you can help. But all together, from where we sit, I believe that the last two will comfortably work for us, because we understand better. And looking at our curriculum, we can say we can even leverage on the competences. Sorry, there is one developing here. Yes, Kidoku. So, well, I think that's my contribution. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia. That guy. Yeah, no, definitely. And I think as we conclude with Simon, I believe Martin, we're having some experiences of how to go around this. And of course, going with what Musi have just indicated to us, that sometimes you cannot be so much removed from the rest. I think you will be indicating as the safe side, Martin. And as well, there's a question that Professor Water asked about. I don't know whether it was Prof. Was about the instruments, the labs. I think you will be indicating what is our context. Simon, I know you are an economist, but you have a lot of interest in learning.
Thank you, Dr. Terry. I've listened to the previous speakers, and I support the conversation. I was thinking if we are able to combine the second bullet, the one which is talking about randomized intervention. I heard Martin, whatever he was telling us about his master's thesis, conducting experiments, comparing the kids in Germany and here in Kenya. I think it's okay, doing random interventions and randomized experiments. It is something funders have keen interest on because they're able to analyze an impact of an intervention. So suppose we look at this variability, those heterogeneity issues, the differences in how the children absorb information, and try to suggest some interventions, and then try to test these interventions, how can they work, how they can work, and combining that with the last two areas there which have got so see those two areas there, the one which has got educational context and the one down there. So I think if we're able to combine those and find something which is fit in terms of ethics, so able to get a license to conduct research within the required ethic guidelines there, I think that can play out well. Dr. I submit.
Yeah, very well, very important, Simon. Of course, in education, we do a lot of controlled studies, just as you've indicated here. Now, Martin, back to you now with the guidance on the safe side, and also as you respond to anything that has been raised. Because at the end of the day, there's something that is included here. Of course, there is what I think Sylvia has indicated. We invite creativity in proposal. Another thing, of course, definitely, if we get it right during the design, that's what we should move. We shall move on with our bargain, our compromise should just be right at the design, because I think I saw stages whereby if we go through stage one with what we think is correct, and then the subsequent stages will be dictating what we want. Martin.
Yeah, I think one of the questions that was raised, which I think is interesting, and maybe we should think about, is to what extent are we disadvantaged when we leave out some of these other areas? In part, because of the nature of the data we're collecting using technology. For example, when you use eye tracking information, you're gathering data in real time as somebody is making decisions and thinking. But you're capturing this data subconsciously because where their eyeballs are falling is being captured, but they are not aware what is being captured exactly. But it's in real time. So on one hand, it's quite objective, but on the other hand, it's not available. This data has not been collected. So it presents an interesting opportunity on one hand to get unique data to analyze, which is about our learners, which we need to, I think even on our own, in our own context, we need to be helpful to know about the findings of such kind of research. So to what extent does it maybe leave us in the dark? And to what extent are we disadvantaged in this call? Because there's a growing interest and popularity in gathering real-time data as people are making cognitive decisions. Even this, they're calling it AFMRI and EEG. These are neurological data collection methodologies or methods that are very popular. And those are the kind of experiments that donors actually want to fund. And again, the reason why they're very interested in working with groups like ours is because we give them access to the respondents. They would not have access to respondents, like in Africa, without going through us. Because we are on the ground, if we agree to work with them, we become their eyes on the ground or their data collection points on the ground. So I think it's interesting data to have even for our own purposes. And one wonders whether the interest of the donor goes down if we leave them out. I don't know. And then, of course, if it were that we were going to include them, then the question of how, so that we are clear on the ethical issues, so that we don't compromise our own people as a result of what we are doing. I think these kind of things become a challenge we need to address. But I thought the question was valid, that we need to think about what we leave out also, if it's going to weaken our proposal. That's maybe what I have.
All right. Yeah, sure. I think you are indicating the idea of the study being interesting, but also we need to be careful. Prof. Opata, we move on?
Yeah.
I think we can move to the next stage. We see how it.
So this is the focus. They're saying that Levante focus embracing and understanding variability in learning across the 3 dimensions described in the Jacobs Foundation Research Agenda within subject, that is individuals, within group, and contextual variability. So I think those are the agenda. They want to look within the subject, that's the individual, within the group, which what they're calling, I think, the context here. The group, and then of course the whole context. Then they also saying that another focus is focus on typically developing children within the age range 2 to 12 years. 2 to 12 years. You can see very well they are going below the school age for, I think, our context. So compulsory primary school years. But our compulsory school years here in Kenya is different. So, however, because selecting measures for young children aged 2 to 5 carries a number of special challenges, the first call for proposal for Levante focuses on children ages 5 to 12. So, I think, the interest is going below 5. But now with this first call, I think this is their first call. They're saying now they will have to, they've adjusted to 5 to 12 years. If you look at that, those are children who are in the pre-unit, cutting across up to somewhere grade 6 or some grade 7. So it's a primary school in our context. So the availability, the available measures address both the general constructs and the specific tasks and measures to be adopted by the Levante framework for children ages 5 to 12. These measures are currently available in English, Spanish, and German. So as a global program, Levante encourages application from all countries, bearing also in mind the special interests of the Jacob Foundation in its target countries, Colombia, Ghana, Switzerland, and Cote d'Ivoire. So that is their focus. I don't know whether there is any interest that arises here.
I think this particular one is quite clear. The focus area, whichever brand or strand that we are going to choose, we want to see within the subjects, which mean within the child, within the children grouping, and within the environment or context. And then we pick on any of these developmental stage. For example, 5 to 12, you can pick any between 5 to 12 and we follow them longitudinal for 3 years. Like, for example, if we chose to pick 5 will be in PP in grade 1. Yeah, 5 will grade 1. Yes, 5 will be in grade 1. And that is one of the landmarks in our CBC curriculum. So grade 1, and we follow these children up to grade 3. Remember, in grade 3, they are sitting exam from NEC to be able to test their ability, cognitive skills, and emotional, and all that. So I think this will be a right choice. Grade 1, and then you move with them longitudinal up to grade 3, the time when they are sitting the exam. I think this particular one is quite clear. The last one, we are not part of it because we are not in that category of the countries with the special interest. But we can be able to blend this focus group 1 and 2. That is where we belong.
I think that's very clear. Very clear. I think we can move on. So selection criteria and eligibility, of course, they are saying the main applicants. I don't know what they mean by the main applicants. Have obtained a PhD or equivalent degree at least 5 years prior to the application deadline, be employed and be part of a research lab at an institution of higher education or research institute, be conducting high quality research in the areas of variability of learning and development, be committed to engaging with and contributing to the activities of both Levante and the Jacobs Foundation. Anything that we pick from here? What's the meaning of the main applicants? Is it the main applicant or main applicants?
Okay, through the chair, I feel they mean the experts who are going to be applying should actually have the 4 qualities, meaning they should have experience in 5 years, meaning whatever kind of aspect that is being measured, we should have people who have done this for at least 5 years and above. And then number 3, be conducting high quality research in the areas of variability of learning and development. And number 2, be employed by and be part of a research lab at an institution of higher education or research institution. So I'm wondering, we have very high equipment in some of the areas of research where we have very high equipment. In education, I don't know whether there is any of us who have laboratories which have this equipment. Sorry, it's like they expect to be having the equipment to do the work. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't know whether there's anyone who does this particular part with such the kind of equipment that they'd require.
I think I read somewhere ahead. If there are no such equipments, then they should be budgeted for. So I think there is provision. They are aware that in some contexts we could be lacking. So I think there is a place I read just ahead of the proposal here, which can provide for that. But definitely, Martin, you work in a lab context. I don't know what you have to say about this.
Yeah, I think we have a good blend in some ways. Myself, I'm more technical, so I come from a computer science background. So, but I do my research in education. So, I think.
I think we can't hear you.
Oh, I see. You can't hear me. Maybe I'm not sure. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Now it's okay.
No, it's okay. Okay. I was just saying that I come from a computer science background and I have some of this equipment on me already.
Martin, we are losing you.
Oh, you're losing me?
Maybe Maybe you can mute the video, or possibly the one that is taking your internet.
I see. Let me mute the video. Yes. Maybe you can hear me now. Any better?
Yeah, kindly. Maybe go on.
Okay, so I was just saying that we probably just need to be a diverse group of applicants so that we cover ourselves. I saw your list, which are anthropologists, even medical practitioners, as well as educationists. But we also need to have the computer scientists, I suppose. On my side, I'm an interactive media specialist, but I work within computer science and also in the social science in design. But in that, why I'm saying all this is because we have that equipment in our labs. We have eye tracking equipment. We have different types of equipment to capture real-time data from learners. If it's online, we have the software. We also understand how to implement it. So we could participate in the technological side of it. And then, of course, with the educationists, they would help with the methodologies, the theories. So as long as we have representation from the different disciplines, I think we will be able to meet the requirements, even within ourselves, before we ask for specialized funding, cover us. So that's how I'd answer that one. Um, it's just a matter of the specializations that we bring to the table. Yeah.
Well, I think I agree. That's very important. We have solutions that can take care of that.
Yeah.
But I think what Dr. Ngure has said, of course, the applicants, the main applicants, there will be the main applicants, of course, there will be the support and everybody else. It's quite a big thing. So let's see what they have. The following selection criteria are considered in the selection process. Of course, scientific quality of methods and data, publication record and experience on similar collaborative projects, feasibility of the proposed project, availability of resources and capacity of the lab, innovativeness, uniqueness, and value proposition of the proposed project, geographic localization of the proposed project, and demographic representation of representatives of the sample, conceptual alignment and integration of planned project with the Levante framework, collaboration and or multidisciplinary character of the proposed project, inclusion of young scholars in the team, inclusion of additional measures with no limited additional funding requests. I don't know what comment can come from that side. Of course, this speaks to the rigor of the scientific methods. They are not compromising. And of course, the other ABCD, even sometimes even talking about, are they talking about inclusion of students or something? So anybody want to, anything that you pick from there before we move?
I just had a question on how many principal, let's say, investigators are we asked to put forward for this call? Do they give an indication of that? Is there a ceiling on how many so that we know the numbers maybe? Or is it open? We just bring whatever fits?
Well, okay, I didn't see any indication of how many principal investigators. I don't know whether you saw, but I didn't see myself. But definitely, what they are talking about is there can be small funds, big funds, big funding. I think 400,000. Is it 4,000? Whatever they're saying. But then, of course, maybe we could go with the usual way of having one PI and several co-PIs, and of course other people taking other roles. That's what I think. I don't know, Prof. Pata, did you see anything that leads to the number of PIs?
I didn't see anything concerning the PIs. Huh?
Okay.
It was not indicated.
Definitely. But let's just go forward and see. So requirements, The following requirement must be met by all submitted proposals to be considered for funding within the Levante scheme. One, sampling, recruitment, and administration must follow the guidelines. Whatever these guidelines are, I don't know what they are, but well, so I think these are the guidelines here. Project should follow an accelerated objective design. That's what Professor Pat has just said. Target range may target specific ages or recruit more broadly. Participants should be re-evaluated annually. Size with feasible proposals for denser measurements. Sample size justifications. I think that's just scientific. Okay, definitely. This is just the normal sampling. Then number two, all age-appropriate Levante core assessment measures must be administered to children, caregivers, and where appropriate teachers. So the age-appropriate measures. Data must be collected using the Levante infrastructure tools. What are these infrastructure tools? Open access Levante infrastructure. So they already have open access. The key goal regarding twofold that open access shared assessment measures be used, data repository. So they appear to have their predetermined tools. Okay, I think we shall look at that deeply. Yeah.
They are predetermined.
They already have repository.
Yeah, they already have a repository, by the way. So that's what I'm seeing.
Interesting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This was the infrastructure. Proposal should be administer the Levante core assessment measures. So they even have measures. All data from these measures must be covered under the Levante's data submission agreement. Proposal must comply with the Levante ethics, privacy, and data use policies. I'm sure in the next discussion, because I know this one interests Dr. Simon. Bishop, maybe you will be telling us more about this. Is it okay? Simon.
Yes, Doc.
I know you have interest in this, so maybe in the next discussion, you might be telling us what unique things come out of here.
Okay. Well, I don't see that they have all those requirements. Even they have their own tools, the repository. It is very much controlled research. You have to behave in a certain way.
Yeah, so
I think even the questions maybe are predetermined in the tools.
Yeah, maybe we might need to look deeply on them, but anyway, let's just proceed. So general priorities for proposals. Proposal will be evaluated using the following priorities: scientific merits of the articulated research equations, alignment of the proposed project to the relevant key scientific aims, feasibility of the study. So there is the scientific merit, feasibility of the study. Site has the resources and expertise necessary to carry out proposal from resource context. Might want to budget for capacity building to ensure study feasibility. So they have a budget for capacity building. When it comes to sample characteristic, diversity of population representatives, sample size, I think those are normal. Value of additional measures previously corrected or planned correction of data that enhance the value of the core relevant measures, including other measures, types, and prior or subsequent longitudinal tracking. Okay, I don't know what they mean by previously corrected here. Do they mean that we could already be having banks of data that they could be interested on?
Yeah, I think that's what they mean.
Okay.
because this
Yeah.
kind of research is going on in maybe different capacities, and they are trying to see how can they use this framework to, let's say, assess or to, how can whatever we're already doing be mapped onto what this framework wants us to do. But they would need to train us on how this framework
Okay.
is used to understand it better,
Yeah,
because we don't know the Levante framework. Yeah.
Definitely. We should, and this will be budgeting for that. So sharing feasibility and policies for additional data, coordination, opportunity beyond the Levante measures. Okay. So I think those are there. Then we come to the budget and timelines. On the first call for proposal, Jacob Foundation is devoting that money to support project proposals to become part of the Levante network. So I think this is a consolidated money. Simon, how much is this as consolidated? As he does that, we can go on. All projects will have a minimum duration of 3 years, with the possibility of renewal for an additional 3 years for those projects funded in the first 3 requests for proposal. All projects will have a minimum duration of 3 years, with the possibility of competitive renewal for an additional 3 years for those projects funded in the first 3 requests for proposals. Okay, we will support both smaller and larger scale projects, and review will take into account the scope of the proposed budget relative to the value of the project according to the general program priorities. We're talking about the smaller and larger projects.
Yeah, that CHF, 4 million CHF Swiss francs is coming to 610 million shillings.
610 million, huh?
Yeah, that 4 million CHF, and that CHF is Swiss francs.
It's Swiss currency.
Swiss currency.
Very well. Okay.
610 million Kenya shillings.
Yeah,
and that's for the smaller projects.
But maybe that's what they have put for this, for people to go for in maybe. And how many proposals are they going to fund?
I'm not sure.
I don't know. So they have this. This is their. Seems to be their plan. We will support both smaller and larger scale projects, and review will take into account the scope of the proposed budget relative to the value of the project according to the general program priorities. Okay. So they have design and infrastructure, pilot testing, grantee 1, grantee 2, grantee 3. So I think they will be doing a request for proposal at different stages. And so I think from here, Martin, is like they have 6 calls or something. Grantee group 1, 2, 3, up to 6.
Yeah.
Whatever that's. So types of projects, proposal can be submitted within the following 2 categories. Category 1, small projects. We can go for this CHF 400,000. Or category 2, large projects, grant of up to CHF 700. So how much is 400 and how much is 700?
400 is 600.
Because you didn't go for the.
400 is 610 million shillings.
610
million for the 4 million. Or you're saying for 400,000? No.
400,000.
Okay.
Around 60 M.
60 M. 16.
60 M.
60. Yeah, it's around 60 M because
60 M. Okay. About 700.
700 is 106 or let's say 107 million Kenya shillings. That's 700 Swiss francs.
107 million, eh?
107 million.
107 million. That would be good money. That would be good money. Okay. Okay. So small projects, new data, maximum budget, even there. Small projects are expected to support collection of Levante measures in new samples. Addition of Levante measures to ongoing or planned studies. Supplementation of Levante data collection with other measures types. So they are saying, I think this is what Prof was talking about. You can either come up with new collections or integrate in ongoing studies or supplement other studies. So the large projects will deal with the large projects. They're already showing. Okay. They're talking about new data. So here they are talking about are expected to support collection of Levante measures in new samples of greater size or with specific population characteristics of interest that require greater resource expenditure. So I think they are just expanding the scope. The other one is supplementation of Levante data collection with other measures like they are giving extension of Levante for new languages. This one is interesting, Martin.
Yes. Yeah.
This one seems interesting.
It seems interesting. Yes.
Extension of Levante frameworks, e.g., to new languages. So when they talk about new languages, are they only limiting to the language as linguistics or language as even platforms?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like,
Maybe tell us what this Levante framework is, then we can know a bit better.
Okay.
You know, one of the issues, most of these frameworks have a cultural bias. So even in its implementation, we may need to either revise it or improve it for the African context. Otherwise, if you implement something which has a bias that is non-African, then the results are skewed. They probably don't represent the real reality on the ground. So those kind of things, we need to understand it a bit more in order for us to really talk about it.
So analysis projects.
Sorry, I think they have it in English and German. So if there could be an extension to perhaps Kiswahili, so that the framework is used widely in other contexts.
Yeah, very important. I think that's important. So analysis projects. Analysis projects are expected to support psychometric modeling of Levante dataset, novel analysis of Levante dataset, harmonization of Levante data with other datasets. Simon, this is your area.
Sorry, you asked something.
What I'm saying, they're pointing out something about analysis here, and I thought it could interest you.
So I think the analysis is guided within the Levante framework. I think to decode it, we need to dive deeper into what is the tools of analysis they use at the Levante.
Okay.
Because we have to harmonize it with the Levante data set. I think we need to get hold of the framework in details.
Okay.
Yes.
Very good. So overview of the application process. The core proposal submission deadline is October. I think that's 2 weeks from now. So initial application, they will do validation, external review, then extended proposal, internal review, external review, interview. I think they'll call for interview where they'll do selection by review panel, approval by BOT. So I think they have grouped their application process into those stages. So stage 1, initial application, August 12th to October 6th. So I think this is where we are in that stage between August 12th that has already gone and October 6th. So maybe Prof had already indicated that we need to if we're going for it, we need to do even October 4th as our set deadline. So what will be required here is the initial application comprises 3 parts: general information, just general information. You will be asked to submit general information about yourself, your team, and your background. So this one is about the team. Then number 2, application form. Submit details of your study, including the project description, geographical focus, and target population age range. So here, I think is a kind of a description of the study itself. Submit details of your study, including the project description, where it's focused, and even the target population. Then upload your CV and list of publications. So these are I think the team, the PI, the co-PIs, and of course all the other members. So that is stage 1, where we are supposed to be in now. Before even now got to stage 2, because of stage 2 now is now extended proposal. This will be
do they have application form?
They are saying they have. They are saying they have application form.
Okay.
So I think once we go to
that form should give us the structure.
Yeah.
Then we just need to fill in.
It could be on the portal. So maybe I think we shall be heading there. Maybe once we make we go through it and finish. So the other one is extended proposal between November 20th and December 15th. If your initial
we can concentrate on the first stage.
Okay.
We can decide 2 things. Are we going for the large or small? And then now, stage 1, what are we supposed to do? So that we clear that. When we get feedback, we can now move to stage 2.
Very well guided, Prof. I think that's very clear.
Yeah, through the chair. I feel this is the kind of calls whereby they first get the stage 1 to show your suitability. So when you give your team, they can see and they vary. Are you able to do this? Because you see, they're even looking at your list of publications. Are you able to do this work? They're trying to gauge. It looks like they want people who have already done this, and that's why they're looking for the list of publications. That's a first guider to know what the donor really wants. They want people who are experts in that particular area. The other question that has been lingering through my mind throughout is that as much as this research is good, I don't see where we are told, because I know there are places where they tell you, please concentrate on maybe objective 1, objective 2, objective 3. For this one, the Levante scale looks like it's a complete thing. We have no option of leaving out any. Where we are saying we are comfortable with 2, we are comfortable with what, I don't see where we have an option here. It is depending on the description they have given here. The other thing is when we are given data sets, my worry is the 2 to 5 year old, and because you see the 5-year-old is still at ECD. They have not gotten, grade 1 is 7 years. So I'm looking at a case whereby when we are told to look at our data sets, which is something they have shown here, geographical region, and the kind of where are you getting that data from, the sample size and all that. And I'm trying to look at it from a point of, do we have a data set that can be able, where we can have the 2 to 5, where we can be able to have the other age set, and in a practical manner, maybe maybe I've dealt with the older persons, so maybe for the younger ones, it's a bit difficult. I don't know if you can be able to explain that. We can be able to know that these are the people we shall use. These are the people we shall analyze. in this region, maybe we can be able to know where are we starting and where are we going. Thank you.
Okay. I think for the 2 years, I think they said it could not be practical for this call, but I think that's why they took it to 5. You see what they said here. I think there's something that they said they would be interested in 2 to 12, but they said now, however, because selecting measures for young children ages 2 to 5 carries a number of special challenges. This first call for proposal for Levante focuses on children. So I think for this one they are going for 5 to 12, and I think as Prof said, 5 years, by the way, it's not grade 1. 5 years is PP1. Remember, we have PP2 who are 4 years.
Yes, and that's what I was saying. It scales from ECD to primary school, and that's what I was asking. I just wanted someone to say, like, what kind of setup would we get this kind of data?
The setup is there, is clear, because just as we know currently, the CBC model starts from actually, when it talks about lower primaries, start from PP1 to PP2 to grade 3. So we can use what Prof was talking about, the longitudinal 3 years to in our schools. I think we already have a setup.
Yeah. That one is clear.
So now, I think the other concern that Joyce is raising was there's something else you spoke about.
Yeah, it looks like they are not giving us an option to choose. Because I know some calls come with an option of where they tell you to choose either objective 1, 2, or they tell you choose 3 or 2. But here I don't know whether we have a choice.
Okay, I think what we have agreed is to work on whatever we shall work on, which is just a concept. Then we put it through stage 1 and see what they will say about it. Because definitely every study compromises and bargains are all in the design process. Once you get it right in the design and you agree, then you will move depending on our own context. Remember, the Americans have always been pushing the LGBTQ agenda, but we have always refused to comply. So I don't think we shall be hung by anyone by dictating our progress. But anyway, here we are, Prof. Now, I think going by what we have seen and what we have agreed, then we need now to move on. Prof, how will you guide?
Yeah, Chair, thank you so much. I think the first starting point is for us to pick the strand we are working on. Dr. Simon had identified number 2 and the last 2 that we had pointed out. Out of that, then we need to be able to coil a title on that and agree, are we going for small or are we going for large? And then we start working on it by dividing labor now.
Okay. So I think that's a good guidance. So we are saying that we have already agreed on this one.
Not that one. Not that one. This number 2 up here. Number 2 up. That one. Number 2 up. From number 1, the big dot. Yeah, that one.
Or use of Levante measures as part of.
Yeah, that one.
Okay.
And the last 2 at the bottom. Yes. So
okay,
you see.
Simon, I think you are taking note of that.
Yes, I am.
Okay. So we are agreeing on those plans.
Yeah.
Then
We pick the main one and those that are aligning to substract. And then we agree what is it that we want to interrogate in that? How should we frame our title? And which type of funding are we writing the proposal? Small, big. Then we need to see the structure of that form, application form structure, because this other one is just clear. We decide on the PI and the co-PI, and we agree how people should go to revamp their CV, bringing out the publications that are speaking to this code.
Yeah, I think that's very good guidance, Prof. Definitely, there are those things we can do now, like we have already decided on the strands and the sub-strands, which I'm sure someone has picked on. The title might need to be reworked, and I think Martin, this could be something you could give us a draft by tomorrow.
Tomorrow is in 2 hours.
Yes.
Maybe other members may have also had they are thinking about the title. If they have, then we open WhatsApp so that we have a common WhatsApp where people can post all this.
So common WhatsApp. Simon, you'll create a common WhatsApp, and then we post in the titles in the next 24 hours. Oh, not 24 hours, by the way. I don't know when the next meeting should be, but remember, we don't have time. So I was thinking, I know tomorrow several people are committed. Can we do it on Monday, or will it be so advanced, Prof?
Monday is okay.
Monday.
But between now and Monday, we may have to give some assignment what we are coming to.
That's what we are doing actually. I know Monday evening I have a meeting. I don't know whether we can we do it earlier at 6.
No problem. I think we
Monday
can
6.
try.
We can try Monday 6. Of course, we shall have seen the streaming of the on the WhatsApp. So the first assignment is a draft title, just a draft title. Whoever will work, all of us, after going through the call again. Let's draft something, and we shall choose what we want to move on, move with along.
It is not clear. Everybody drafts something, or what are you? What are we doing?
What I was saying, because of accommodation. Oh, okay. No, not everyone, of course. We don't want to be punitive. But as you guided the Prof, that those who believe they can point out something, maybe, and I know they are there, because if we have the people who will deal with the early childhood, of course, this could be an opportunity. So let's see the titles that would come by Monday, even if there will be 2, 3, 4. Then of course we shall talk about them. Is that okay, Prof? So we're not dictating.
Yes. Is it possible so to come up with objectives, titles, and objectives?
So yeah, I think that would be appropriate. Already, that one would be a concept. So title and objectives. Friends, if you can generate a title and of course 4 objectives, then we see how we can move with it on Monday. I think that one is okay. The other
Chair, I'm still not clear. How are we going? I wish we could have a Google Doc. Maybe instead of everybody writing his own title and
So we work on a Google Doc.
so that everybody is seeing the title, and from those titles they are on Google Doc. If you come up with mine, I come up like that, they are on the same Google Doc.
Okay. I think that would be would get better. And sometimes we could even edit by having a copy of another. I can have a copy of yours. Of course, I don't edit yours, but I have a copy of yours. I think that would be interesting. Dr. San and okay, guys, we have worked on the Google Doc so much, so I believe this would be something for us to input all of us. I think it's agreeable that. Yeah, thank you. So let's Simon, another task. You will have to create a Google Doc. We shall share on the WhatsApp. We shall all share our emails so that you can know how to control the Google Doc. Is that okay, Simon?
That's okay, Chair.
Okay.
Okay. We also need to get hold of that form.
Yeah, the form is there.
The one which will guide us on what we are putting on. Is there a link to it?
I believe it should be here in the apply now, and I don't know. Let me just open, but I want to suspect the form should be here.
You'll see the application. You know the link that
is that?
Yeah.
Is it there, Martin? Yes?
Yeah, it's at the top. At the very top of the page, but not this page. It's the link that you sent us, the initial one.
Oh, it is there.
Yeah, the yellow button at the beginning, Kabisa. Yeah, I see apply also. Maybe this apply is the one as well.
It is there. It is there actually. The only thing I don't know.
We need to register. Maybe we need to register.
Yeah, because once we decide on the PI, this will be the work of the PI.
Yeah.
So that the PI is able to direct us on the form, and maybe even get maybe a number or something. So we don't want to bahatisha, then we end up. So once we make a decision, because the form must be there.
Yeah.
Okay. So back to the title and objective. So whoever will be able to generate title and objective, let's do it by Monday. So at by 6 p.m. on Monday, we shall meet 1 hour just to brainstorm. Simon will be getting our emails after he creates the WhatsApp group.
Is it proper also to add the output?
The output, so we have title,
objectives and outputs.
Title. Output. The expected outputs. Maybe you can clarify that, Prof.
Okay. From objective, what are you intending? What is your end product?
So outputs come from the objectives. Yeah, I think we can formulate that. So colleagues, use all the tools that are available. AI is part of it. We are not. I think we said we are not requesting. Actually, it's if the Americans have already created a national office for AI, then also let's use it, but humanize. So it will not be difficult. It will be interesting also to learn. So title, objectives, and outputs. If we can get that by Monday, we shall brainstorm and see. Then is with this decision we can make now. Are we going for the big or the small team? I prefer the big. I don't know what the other say.
So you prefer the big?
It's only work that will be more.
Yeah, we have to justify. I was just wondering, in terms of the.
Let's hear opinion.
in terms of the titles, for example, if you're going for
We
the
want to money, big money. Anyway, that's debatable.
I was asking,
Simon.
you see, if you're going for the big one, then let's say we have a title. That title becomes an umbrella under which several, you could say, projects are running. This is maybe one way of doing it, so that it's not just one project, but it could also be more than one project. And then you could argue they come under one umbrella title. You see how we could approach it, and then that could justify also going for the bigger one.
No, Martin, we are not getting you clearly. I didn't get you clearly, but anyway.
Okay, can you hear me now? I don't know if I'm clear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What I was saying was that when you're going for, let's say, let's say we're coming up with titles, maybe a strategy might be to have an umbrella title, a big one, and then under that we have, let's say, several projects, research projects that fit that umbrella. Rather than just having one for that money, but we have several, it might be more justifiable and explainable and reasonable in that context. You see, I don't know if it makes sense, but I'm just thinking out loud that we have an opportunity to do more than one project or research project and have several outputs. Was I clear? I don't know if you could hear me again. It's gone silent.
Yeah, Martin, I don't understand how I know we can have one umbrella proposal, but it is being guided by various objectives that are going to address that. And now, by saying that we have the big one and then we have the branch, the specialities from the big one, does it mean we branch those objectives to form sub-proposals? Why can't we just have, the way they have said, either you go for the big or the small?
Yeah, I think we can go for either. But what I was thinking was, in order for us to be more flexible with our proposal and to invite a larger pool of diverse specializations, it might be helpful if we allowed for more than one project, which means more than one area of research. You know, the research is nuanced, even within education. Once you nuance, then we can not only create different ideas comfortably, we can also see synergies between them. And that can be our challenge, how we find the synergies. But at least we have distinct proposals, and then we have an umbrella which encompasses them. So that when we apply under the umbrella, but we know that we explain it through the different projects. It might be a way of, let's say, creating components or compartmentalizing our work, because one of the challenges could be handling a big project could be that it's too large, but if we break it into pieces, it becomes doable. So it's those pieces that I'm now speaking to.
Okay, now it's like we are suggesting we go for the big one, but inside the big one we have sub projects.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Now, what are the possible projects?
Now,
one is technology.
For example, yeah.
Technology.
Yeah.
Innovation in learning and child development. Another one. Yeah. Until we can get maybe 4 out of that. You can think about that in that area, you see.
Exactly. And even this work we do, educational content data, or something that will favor technology combined with education, such things. But you're right, we just think of the areas. And I saw there could be interest in neuroscience. So there's a medical component which would allow us to bring in those kind of practitioners.
And there is another one under sociology and family and community, branching now that area. how the community and the family comes in
Yeah.
to enhance the child's growth and learning along the child development stages.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, one of the things which is interesting in Africa, because it's young, it's not yet established.
And then leadership is there.
Yeah, leadership is there.
Leadership in child growth and development.
Building the digital culture of an institution. Yeah, that is a challenge we have, but it can be also a research area.
Okay. So Martin, anyone who wants to work with Martin to come up with the various projects within the big project, because we are coming from different disciplines, huh?
We are coming from,
and our discipline can stand out as a project within the big project.
That's right.
I think what here we can do is once we come up with the titles, I think then the titles can tell us clearly what scope we can cover. I think once we have come up with the title, then of course all the other packages will fall into place.
True.
It appears going for the bigger one would require a complex study, which I think we are all capable, because it's all about plugging in here and there. So why don't we get the titles and the objectives, then we decide as a team.
Okay. I think that's okay.
Okay. Yeah. So that's done. Now the other thing is, so even it appears even now we shall have to make that decision of the big after we look at the titles and see how much we can. The PI, of course, we need one PI and co-PIs. I don't know what you say about this, but we need to see the form first of all. Is it possible we make a decision about the PI?
I mean, one thing we know, the PI would have to be someone with a PhD of 5 years. And of course, papers to match. Already, that now narrows down the choice. Yeah. So it might be the ones who have met that criteria to put their maybe CVs forward, and then from there we can now can pick. But I'm just thinking, if we have more than one area, maybe we have more than one PI. Unless you're saying there's a super PI and then we have PIs. I don't know. The structure is what I'm thinking now. How do we do it? Because realistically, you might find if it's medical research, the PI there is very specialized. That's one person. If it is education, that's another area. If it is technology, it's another area. You see, so you might end up with more than one PI, it seems to me.
You know, if we have more than one PI, it will mean we have several studies. I think, which okay, to me that one would make us lose focus in a way, given the short time that we have.
Yeah, but justification of such a project, if you break it down into its constituent parts, you have a better chance of understanding it than if you keep it as one. I'm flexible. I'm only thinking loudly with you. I'm not sure how we'll go about it. But the PI is definitely someone with a PhD of 5 years. Now those people are not many. We have only a few, a handful.
Very well. Okay. Now, maybe for the purpose of seeing the form, I don't know, Simon, how can we see that form? Do we? Do you think as we think about the PI, maybe you can get away of getting the form without necessarily applying?
Yeah, I think someone can actually register, but you don't submit anything. You go through the entire document, but you don't submit.
Yeah, I think that's okay.
That's okay.
Simon, that's okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Then the CVs, maybe we need now to align our CVs to maybe the call. Definitely, they would all come in handy when we are saying who we are as a team. Most studies that are collaborative, you realize that they ask for the whole team to see who will plug in here, who will plug in there. Maybe we shall be adding others, but for now, we can work the way we are. We are still in the process of brainstorming. So I think we have one milestone. If we are able to get through the title first and agree on the title, then Prof, the work schedule now will start from there. Is that okay, Prof?
I think that is in order.
So, friends, let's end up here. We have brainstormed, we have thought about it. It's late at night. Let's just drop at this point, and then by Monday, of course, we shall have several. We shall be seeing from the Google Doc that Simon will be creating what our inputs are. I think I have the numbers of everyone on board, so I'll share with Simon so that he creates a WhatsApp group, and then Google Docs what we work. We believe that this is something that we can hit on and move on with something. I don't know whether there's someone with anything before I ask maybe a colleague to close for us with a prayer.
I think I'm okay.
So if there's none, okay, very well, very good, Martin. If we don't have, I think maybe we can request Dr. Sang to close for us.
Okay, Chair, let's pray.